Okay, it's just right around 7 p.m. Central Time. Uh, so we will get started today. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, depending on which part of the world you're joining us from. Uh, my name is Vineet Ram, and I'll be your moderator today for this special Heartfulness webinar. I have been a practitioner of heartfulness meditation for a few decades now. I was first introduced to the practice during my undergraduate years in India. And this journey with heartfulness has been deeply transformative for me. And it's provided a foundation for inner peace and balance that I've tried to carry throughout my personal and professional life. And very interesting today's session. It's a bit of a personal reunion as well. Prasad Sankaran, our distinguished speaker for today's webinar, and I were schoolmates in India. And after many years apart, we reconnected about 8 years ago when I moved to the Houston area. And it'll be a great pleasure for me to interview him and for us to hear his insights on inner peace in the corporate world. Uh, the agenda for today, uh, I'll do a brief introduction to heartfulness meditation for those of you who may not know much about it. We'll have a detailed question and answer session with Prasad Sankaran, and then we will end with a guided relaxation and a peace intention prayer, which I will walk everybody through. So just to get started, uh, heartfulness meditation is a practice that's been transforming lives around the world by helping individuals achieve inner peace, mental clarity, and emotional balance. It's really a simple, heart centered meditation practice designed to bring stillness to the mind and peace to the heart. It helps individuals connect their inner self through meditation, allowing them to cultivate calmness and clarity in their everyday lives. Really, this practice is accessible to everyone, regardless of experience or spiritual background, and it focuses on bringing balance to the physical, mental, and emotional dimensions of well being. The core is four key elements of heartfulness: relaxation, which releases physical and mental tension for a focused meditative state, and we will experience that today. Meditation on the heart, where gentle focus on the heart cultivates deep inner calm. We also have a cleaning technique which clears stress and emotional burdens, leaving one lighter and more receptive. And finally, a prayer and connection, which fosters a sense of inner surrender and connection to peace and wisdom that endures throughout the day. Together, these elements of the practice enhance well being and inner peace. Heartfulness is really about living with a peaceful mind, an open heart, and a balanced life. It really integrates seamlessly into everyday life, allowing individuals to manage stress, improve focus, enhance relationships, and foster resilience. The beauty is it requires no specific setting or equipment, it can be practiced anywhere, anytime. It has touched the lives of millions across the globe, with practitioners spanning various cultures, professions, and walks of life. It's supported by a network of heartfulness centers and trainers, available both online and in person, including a mobile app, making it easy to access guidance and deepen your practice. So for those of you who are new to Heartfulness and looking to learn more, please visit heartfulness.org, or you can join the community on the Heartfulness YouTube channel, where there are numerous live sessions, guided meditations, and practical tips that are available. With that, let me move to the main portion of our agenda today, which is, really to introduce Prasad Sankaran. I'm delighted that we have a distinguished guest like him. Prasad is the Executive Vice President at Cognizant, a leading technology services company. He is a highly respected leader in the technology space, currently serving as the global head of software and platform engineering at Cognizant, where he leads strategy, partnerships, delivery for digital experience and application management. He's really had a long, illustrious career with over 2 decades of experience in managing large-scale IT projects. Before joining Cognizant, he was a senior partner at Bain & Company, where he led enterprise technology and private equity practices. And before that, he had a very long tenure at Accenture, where he had seen leadership roles and was a global lead for intelligent cloud and infrastructure. So really, a lot of technology, but really what I want to point out is his expertise just lies not just in technology, but in leadership. He's been guiding teams and organizations through rapid change, complex challenges in the fast-paced world of corporate IT. His experience spans multiple industry sectors from banking, insurance, retail, to other areas, and I think he's uniquely qualified to speak about how inner peace and mindfulness can impact corporate environments, particularly in extremely high-pressure sectors. So really today, Prasad will be sharing some of his perspectives on how corporate wellness programs foster a culture of mental and emotional and physical well-being. He'll explore kind of mindfulness practices and how they can be integrated into corporate wellness with us, and really resulting in better employee engagement, lowering stress levels, and improving productivity and happiness. So really, without further ado, please join me in welcoming Prasad Sankaran to today's webinar. And Prasad, thank you so much for joining our webinar today.
Thank you, Vineet. It's a real pleasure and honor to be here.
Excellent. So, really, to kick us off, just for the audience to get to know you a little better, can you talk to us about, where you were born, where you grew up, some of your early experiences, your early in life and education, kind of how did that shape you, to just get us started here?
Sure. Yeah, let me talk about that, and then happy to talk about the work aspect as well. So Vineet and I actually met when we were about 2 years old in kindergarten at the same school in Chennai. It used to be called Madras in those days. So I was born in Madras, and then went to school at the same school till I was in seventh standard or seventh grade. At which time my parents had a change in job and therefore had to move on to Hyderabad. So grew up in Chennai, had a fabulous set of friends like Vineet and a few others who I still keep in touch with. As Vineet said, we reconnected thanks to WhatsApp and all of these other new digital tools, and we're in touch with a lot of our friends. So grew up in Chennai, which was very different upbringing, back in those days. A fabulous experience going to Don Bosco, which was a school there. Finished my seventh standard, as I said, in Don Bosco. Then moved to Hyderabad, which was a bit of a change because having been born and brought up in Madras, Chennai, and then moving to Hyderabad, it's a different language. Joining a whole different school in the eighth standard was actually a very challenging experience, because the culture, I thought, on both the schools was quite different, but really got to enjoy both. And as I reflect upon it, that's kind of when change became part of my life. And one of the things that I sought going forward was change. And I realized, I guess, from then on that change is actually a constant. And the more you can embrace change and even seek change sometimes, really helps. So moved to Hyderabad, different place, different city, a fabulous city in its own way. I grew to love it. It's one of my favorite cities in the world. Amazing food, amazing history. Learned Telugu, which is a different language. I myself am from Malayali, and having been brought up in Chennai, was very familiar in Tamil. Then went and then got to learn a whole different language in Telugu and Hindi, which was commonly spoken in Hyderabad, although it's a different version of Hindi from the rest of India. So studied there until I finished my 12th standard, and then started engineering school, like a lot of us. Studied in Hyderabad, and at the time, because of my interest in chemistry and wanting to be an engineer, I decided to study chemical engineering. So spent 4 years of my life, studying chemical engineering, and then at that point, like several of us, when we finished, I came to Texas A&M in the U.S. to pursue my graduate studies. My upbringing was, family of my parents and my sister. And so a lot of our cousins living in Chennai and Bangalore and Hyderabad. So largely spent my entire life mostly in South India, and still have fond memories. My parents still have moved actually to Bangalore now, live with my sister. So this is one of the perks of being at a global company, first with Accenture and now with Cognizant, I do get to, as part of work, visit India, which continues to be a place that I love to be at, not just from a family perspective, but to also see several of our friends, who are, living there. So that's kind of the background from at least the initial years.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for walking through us that rich kind of experience and background you have. So you've clearly had a very illustrious career that spans the IT industry and leadership roles in global companies. Can you kind of draw sort of how did that early life education, kind of shape your views on well-being and mental health and balance? Can you talk a little bit about that? Clearly, change was a big part of your life, but change can create stress as well. Um, can you shed some light on that, Prasad, for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I was fortunate, Vineet, in that, both my parents were working in sort of corporate India. My father was working in a multinational company. My mother was working at a bank, at a nationalized bank. So both of them were in relatively senior executive roles. So I got to see, the stresses. It was a different type of stress, obviously. You didn't have mobile phones and you didn't have to be connected 24/7. But it was a different kind of stress. So I got to kind of see that throughout. And like you said, having moving in your eighth standard when you're about 12 or 13 years old to a different city also does that. My parents were both in their own ways kind of practitioners of meditation. It was in some ways combined with their religious beliefs, but it involved daily practice of sitting down and prayer and meditation in a certain format. So that was a very normal part of my upbringing. So that was something that I was pretty exposed to. I had the opportunity once I moved to Hyderabad to have a set of friends who were actually in those days very much into meditation and being with them and connecting with them. And of course, they were far more involved in it than I was. Gave me that. Now, if I had to go back and do things all over again, then there are other things that I would cultivate and do from the early days. But I was fortunate enough to be exposed to a lot of these practices. And I'll come to this later. But once I got married, my wife is actually a very big practitioner of meditation. She has actually been initiated into a certain type of meditation, and living with her gave me that other view around how it is practiced. So I think the best way is being exposed to it from a family perspective, and being around friends, and certainly someone like you, Vineet, obviously that helps in this journey.
Fantastic. No, that's really great perspective. I was not aware of these, so this is great for me to know as well. And were there any defining moments or experiences that you would that particularly stand out? Was there any one incident or something that you would say that really made a particular impact, or was it more just all of these together?
No, I think it was a steady journey, and I think my father's meditation, prayer and meditation, which he would actually do that for almost a couple of hours every day. It was kind of broken up in the morning for a certain period of time, and then more intensively in the evening. I got to see how it kind of centered him. Back in those days, he had a really high pressure job, and the way it used to work is, used to be responsible for a series of factories, and something would happen at a plant, or there would be a union problem or whatever, and the only way they would get a hold of him was when the landline would ring, and if it rang after like 6 o'clock, you knew there was there was a problem. But just seeing how he dealt with it, and being able to kind of draw upon that sort of centeredness and peace that brings with it, that was one thing. I also had a few experiences. Once I got married, I accompanied my wife to a few different retreats where we would spend the entire day. It was like pretty intensive, 2 or 3 days of meditation, and like you talked about cleaning techniques and things like that. So I was pretty uninitiated, and not quite into it like she was, and the other people who were there, but I could start seeing, being in that sort of situation when you're surrounded by all of these other people who are very much deep practitioners, then you start seeing the effects of it. And nothing like seeing is believing, right? So when you're in the middle of that, then you start talking to people like that. So I've had a few of these sort of uh,
Excellent.
incidents or
Yeah.
sessions, then where I think it opened my eyes more. But overall, I've been connected in from the beginning.
Great. And clearly, I mean, if we try to put ourselves into your shoes, you have a very significant global role. You have thousands of employees, kind of, in your organization, demands of your time and energy. We can just imagine how crazy they can be. Do you put into practice any specific tools or approaches or for your own sort of well-being and mental health and balance? Can you give us sort of some of that for us, Prasad?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I got into, my career once I graduated from college, from grad school. When I went to college again, I went in multiple different directions. I had studied an undergraduate degree in chemical engineering, but then went on to study computer science and then got an MBA in finance. So, all different areas. And then I decided that the best area for me to get into, almost 30 years ago was to get into consulting, management consulting, because my thesis was that it would bring all of my different sort of educational backgrounds together, rather than go into one specific area. So that was a very high stress job, which I started right out of grad school. I was traveling for many years, Monday through Friday, when you're at a client, never at your own office, and you have to adjust to the client situation. I've worked in as a consultant in nursing homes, almost sitting in a closet, to being at a bank where so the whole scenario changes from one to the other. So like I said, change has always sort of been a constant. So I think in the younger days, you just sort of wing it, and it's a high stress life. But then fairly quickly, I kind of realized that, especially after I got married, that as you mentioned, Vineet, really there's the physical aspect, there's the mental aspect, and then there's the spiritual or emotional aspect, as you referred to. So from a physical standpoint, what I've tried to do is a few things. One is making sure that I'm very aware of my health profile. So and I've been fortunate enough to work at companies that support that. So making sure that you check to see how you are physically doing, because some of these things creep up, especially as you grow older. So that was one. The second was exercise. I used to be more into doing a lot of walking, because it's my favorite activity, because it allows me to think while I am exercising, and in a way it allows me to solve a lot of problems sometimes, while I'm taking part in it. But then I realized that there are other aspects of exercise that you have to do. So nowadays, what I do is I try to weight train like 3 times a week, do other exercise. So I think exercise is a very important part. I would have started it a lot earlier in my life, and I've seen other successful leaders. In fact, I've seen our CEO at my previous company, and he would have his calendar blocked off from like 6 p.m. to like 8 o'clock or whatever, and it didn't matter what came, he would, and which part of the world he was, he would find some way to exercise. So I think exercise is important. Diet obviously is important, and then making sure that the most important thing I think is sleep. Making sure that and you can be sleep deprived in so many ways. So I think I would have started these practices a lot earlier if I had realized how important they were. So I think the physical, then the mental aspect was making sure that you have the right kind of balance. You're able to approach all situations in the same way. They're going to be highs and lows. So I try not to be overly happy when there are highs, but at the same time not be too disappointed when there are lows, because it's going to be a series of highs and lows that average out. And being able to bounce back, I think is very important. So having that mental view around that, and then having an overall perspective. I think having grown up in India, going back there often, seeing how other people are also challenged in different ways is important. And I think lately, the spiritual aspect, around what's your purpose and what do you want to do longer term. I think balancing all of that in all three aspects, I think is sort of very important. And the earlier you can sort of figure out how to inculcate and really make it a part of your daily living, I think would is a really successful formula. At least would have been for me, for my younger self, if I had started it a lot earlier. But better late than never, right?
Yeah, no, this is you've done remarkably well in managing these things, which is not easy at all. From perspective of like beyond leaders, but looking at employees and clients and shareholders in corporate world, kind of talk a little bit about your perspectives on how does all this matter to them, and why should corporate world really kind of worry about this, and what's the drivers here?
Yeah, I think there's the thing about it is I worked in three different companies. As you mentioned, I worked at Accenture. When I started, we were a 20,000 person company. When I left, it was well over 700,000 people. So very large organization. Then I got an opportunity to work at a company like Bain, which was just 12,000 people. So relatively speaking, much smaller, much more connected. And now I'm at Cognizant, which is where we are over 350,000 people. So similar to where I was initially. And what I've realized is, as you rightly said, there are three sets of stakeholders: clients, our customers, employees, and of course the other stakeholders, shareholders in the business, etc. I think it's very important to be able to have happy clients, and it starts with happy employees. So being able to have the right sort of infrastructure in place, the right practices in place, I think is important. I personally view it as, I have to kind of lead from the front and set an example. The thing about being at Cognizant, where I have, a team that is almost 150,000 people, is you're not going to get to know every one of them personally. And when you are a leader of a larger organization, then I think it's important for you to set the culture. Culture matters because at the end of the day, through communication, through messaging, people need to know what kind of organization and what kind of team are you trying to build. So I think that's very important. Having an open door policy is very important to me. And I think that's something that we do really well in our company, and I'm very proud of that, is that people have access to anybody all the way to the top. So people can come directly to you and say, I've had this issue, and being able to be empathetic and understand it within the corporate context, because there's going to be situations where they perceive it a certain way, but so having a balanced outlook, making sure that you don't burn out your people, because like you said, it's a high stress environment. Obviously there's a lot of focus on the bottom line, but making sure that we have our corporate wellness programs in place, and we do a lot of different things, and I've seen the same at the other organizations I work for. I see a lot of that at clients who I'm at. Then also just being able to talk to clients and understand what they are looking for, because sometimes clients can be looking at results they want to achieve, but you don't want to also disrupt your employees. So being able to have that right discussions with them on what is important. For example, there could be a very important deadline that requires everybody to work super hard for the next month.
Mhm.
And for that, you have to really be able to communicate that to the employees and say, this is why we are doing it, and not just tell them you need to get this done, you have to work 20 hours a day. But I've seen that as long as people understand what they are trying to do and what is the result they're trying to achieve, not just the program they're trying to write, but what is it going to do. This is what it's going to do for your client, and this is what the client is going to be able to achieve for people at large, right? Because at the end of the day, we are serving people in one way, shape, or form through products or services. I think that does a lot. And then making sure that all these wellness programs are adhered to, and not in name only, being able to lead from the front and making sure that I am watching closely my immediate team, because they I see every day, making sure that if somebody is overworking or is not perhaps taking as much care of themselves as they should, being able to do that. And I think if you're able to create that culture, then they automatically take that to the next level, and then it rolls through the entire organization, is what I've seen.
Fantastic. Great. We have a question that came to the chat. This is a person who would like to know which college you went to, engineering college you went
Oh,
to.
yeah. So I went to Osmania University, College of Technology. So College of Technology was where you studied chemical engineering. College of Engineering was the rest of the engineering disciplines. It was a smaller setup because we were separate from the main college. And so it was a great experience. We had about 50 people in every batch. So it was just 200 of us at any time. So it was a fantastic experience.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, I have a little bit of knowledge of chemical engineers now based on what I do, and I know it's a very tight-knit group of people, and it's a fascinating group. The next one, there's probably a lot of people, youth who'll be watching this webinar, Prasad, and to just hear from somebody who's had a lot of success in their career. A lot of them are aspiring to do the same things that you have achieved. Do you have anything to share about any kind of challenges or setbacks you had in your career, and kind of how you overcame them, or something that you would say to your younger self to better manage your situation, and if that had anything to do with well-being or personal health and so on? I'm just that would be
Yeah,
very.
Yeah, so I would say, looking back, and it's something that I luckily had the experience around watching my parents, because both of them had long careers. Actually, both of them worked only in one place. So watching that, I did understand that there are going to be highs and lows, because I've seen a great career trajectory and then some setbacks and so on. So I had the advantage of having seen that. And so I think the first advice I would give is that your career is a marathon, and it's not a sprint, right? So it could be a series of sprints. Depending on where you are in your life, you have to view it differently. It's going to be a big part of your life, but your life is going to change. So when you start, when I started, when I was single, then my life was a little different. Then once I got married, it was different. Then we have one daughter who's now in college. When she was born, it was different. And Vineet, as you know, in my career, I also moved. When I was in the US, we made the decision because India was becoming a phenomenal opportunity for IT companies. This is 20 years ago, almost, or more than 20 years ago. And Accenture, when I was there, had asked if I would move back to India to start up the Accenture arm in India. And it was a bit of a risk to take at the time, because my career was going really well. But it was, I thought, a fabulous opportunity, in the sense that it got me to go back to India, a place I'd never worked, because I'd only studied there. I'd, of course, watched my parents work, etc. But to go back, so I think you have to look at it as a marathon. You have to look at it as a series of steps, and you have to, one of the things I've done is always done sort of a 5-year plan, a 3-year plan, and a 1-year plan, so to speak. So in the next 1 year, this is what I want to do, but in the next 5 years, this is kind of what and you kind of recalibrate every year. So next year, then you redo your 1-year plan, and then say, does your 3-year plan and your 5-year plan need to be different? And as you move through various stages of life, you have different roles that you have to play, right? So as I moved to the middle part of my life, I had to be a husband, in addition to continuing to be a son, and a brother, and more importantly, I had to be a father as well. So you want to be able to make sure that you're providing enough time, and you're not just completely sort of focused on your career. I think being able to bounce back, I think is very important, um, and take calculated risks. When I moved to India, my wife was actually very much against it. She didn't want to do it at the time. So we discussed it, and ultimately she decided that yes, we'll take that. It felt like a big move to go, leave everything we have here, and then we were there for almost 10 years, and we came back. But I think being able to discuss that between ourselves, being able to understand, yes, this is a calculated risk, and not have any regrets after that. I think that's important. So, one of the things I don't do is go back to think about, well, if I had done this instead of that, then this is what could have happened. I mean, you decide and you move on. So, and I think you have to be a risk taker, but I think you have to take calculated risks. I think you have to be able to switch off at the right times so that you're able to manage other aspects of your life, whether it's family, friends, growth. The other thing I would say is, in any role, I would say, it's kind of a simple thing, but it's like either you want to be growing in some way, shape, or form. Even if you're not growing from a learning perspective, you have to be advancing in your career, or you have to, I think, reassess, and that's where the 1 year plan comes in. Because if you're being stagnant, I think that's something that you have to reassess. And I think in today's world, especially with generative AI, and if you look at all of the different new technologies that are going to and the different inventions that are going to completely change the way we live and work, I think it's even more important to make sure that you're a lifelong learner, whatever that is. And so I think, to summarize it, I would say, yeah, look at it not as a sprint, but as a journey and a marathon. Look at it as multiple phases. Be a risk taker. Don't get bogged down by setbacks, because they're going to be there. And have more of a balanced outlook.
Fascinating. I mean, really insightful and fascinating to see your journey here. A couple of quick questions that came up here. Clearly your point about, mental wellness and well-being being so important as we get into even more complexities in the world in terms of the demands on our time. Anything specific that your company is doing on a mental wellness issue, initiatives, or any particular programs that you have in your organization? And what kind of support do you get from your CEO for these kinds of initiatives?
Yeah, we do a tremendous amount of work on wellness, because, again, as I said, this can be, fairly high pressure job, and depending on the part of the program that you're working on for your client, you're going to go through some fairly intense periods of time and work. So we do a lot of things. I think one thing is we again focus on the physical. So we have our health programs, we have our health checkups. We look at maternity support. We look at, in the workplace, because we have large campuses, we focus on ways in which we can involve people, whether it's Tai Chi or whether it's dance or other kinds of therapy, etc. We run a lot of health webinars on. I think one of the very important ones, in fact, one of our executive committee members is very much into that. Talks about is the importance of sleep. And he really believes in it, like I do, but he articulates it in an even better manner. So sleep hygiene, making sure that you're managing all aspects of your health. Some of it are obvious, but some of it are not so obvious. So making sure that you're able to do that. Some, from a mental perspective, we do a lot of things. We have an employee assistance program. We have yoga. We have laughter and music therapy. We have meditation sessions, practicing mindfulness, how can we, deal with stress, etc. And then in addition to that, we also realize that, providing financial support is also very important, as in not financial support from a salary perspective or whatever, but just giving advice and being able to, because sometimes a lot of these mental stresses, etc., happen because of other factors in your life. So being able to openly talk about that, having webinars and workshops on what you should be doing at different stages in life. And then other things like, I think we have a really good program of time off. We want to make sure that people are taking their time off. And that's very important to us, because we absolutely make sure, especially as we are getting to the middle of the year, people shouldn't be just pushing it and then taking time off when they don't need to, and just kind of taking it off because they have the time. We have a cheers program, which is a way in which we can acknowledge the work somebody has done. We have various affinity groups that people can be a part of, and the affinity groups are supported from our CEO downwards. And as an executive committee, which I'm part of, we discuss these things and make sure that we're actually living these things, and not actually having these wellness offerings in place, but not, and also making sure that as things change, and we have a new generation of people joining us, we want to really understand what is it that drives them, what is it that is important to them. Because again, we have people who have just graduated from college to people who have been in the workforce, some of who have been with us for the entire 30 years that Cognizant has been around. So making sure that we're addressing all of these different groups of people that are part of our global 350,000 workforce is very important.
That's fascinating and so comprehensive and well thought through. I think this is, I felt like the time just flew by here, and we'd love to keep talking, even more with you. But really, some of the big things you mentioned about change being a constant, career as a marathon, leading from the front. And I think the one thing that really impressed me was the switch off and switch on. You mentioned the various roles we have to play and how we can be present in every single role that we need to be, there, and we need to be doing them at that time. And that was very, very, impactful for me personally to kind of get that here. So with that, I think we'll just given the time constraints here, we'll move to the next part of this session. So we will go through a guided relaxation, the heartfulness relaxation, and then will be followed by a peace intention prayer. I will guide this, and then we will walk through this. And if there's any questions in the end, if we have a few minutes, we will look at them again. But for now, we will move to um, the guided relaxation for heartfulness. Please sit comfortably. Gently close your eyes. Wiggle your toes. Feel your toes being relaxed. Feel the soothing energy from the earth flow into your feet, relaxing your toes, your feet, your ankles. Take a deep breath and let go. Feel the healing energy moving up your legs to your lower legs and your knees. Feel your entire lower legs, your ankle, and your toes and feet being fully relaxed. Now feel the healing energy moving up to your thighs being relaxed. Turn your attention to your abdomen, hips, and waist, and feel them being relaxed. Take a deep breath and let go. Now feel your back, lower back softening, and relax your entire back from the tip of your tailbone to the shoulders, your upper back, your entire back feeling relaxed. Feel the energy moving up your body to your chest. Feel your shoulders simply melting away, being relaxed. Now your upper arms, lower arms, all the way to the tips of your fingers are being fully relaxed. The healing energy is relaxing your entire upper body, lower body, all the way down to your feet. Now turn your attention to your neck muscles. Feel them softening and relaxing. Move up to your jaws. Relax your facial muscles, the nose, ears, going up to your eyes and your eyebrows, your forehead, all the way to the top of your head. Feel your entire head, neck being fully relaxed. Take a deep breath, let go. Your entire body from the tip of your head all the way to your toes, fully relaxed. Scan your system, see if any part of your body is tense, and relax that part. As your entire body is relaxed, gently turn your attention to your heart. Plunge into your heart and stay there for a bit. Get in tune with the peace in your heart. Feel the peace flowing through your entire body, your body being filled with peace. Now feel the peace moving outward towards everything and everyone around you. Now feel the peace encircling the whole world. Now gently open your eyes and enjoy the peace Thank you for your heart and vision for bringing peace to the world. Hope everybody had some peaceful moments. Um, Want to thank everybody for participating in this webinar. Thank you so much, Prasad, for joining us and sharing your insights and best wishes to you for your continued success. And so good to see all the good work on wellness that's happening at Cognizant. And for those of you who are interested, the next webinar is going to be this Thursday evening at 7 p.m. Central Time with Ruchika Behal, who's a certified wellness coach. And I'm sure that's promising to be a very insightful session as well. So with that, I'd like to say thank you to everybody. Thank you so much for joining. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And thank you again.
Thank you.